Hey, it's Jacob. Welcome to this new video. Today I want to talk about AI vocabulary that you actually need. Vocabulary. And in this video, I really want to talk about, maybe right now you're feeling like there is just too much vocabulary and you're kind of overwhelmed if you're not part of that world. And like they're just, maybe you heard about like gradient descent, dot products or matrices or linear algebra and all those things. But it's like, do you actually need all that? And sometimes people are there are a lot of things that are like that and that are super important that people say that are super important, but in the real world, it's not necessarily what really matters. It might have been like the way they've been taught, but it's not necessarily like the things that are going to actually give you results. And they are, like, in my opinion, sometimes maybe counterproductive. So you need to be very careful. Like, this is not your fault. This is not you being like not knowing enough if you're just a beginner. It's just that the approach is not done in a way that is for like very beginners, or like it's going to give you new things that are not necessarily useful. And the vocabulary that you need is you really need to reverse engineer what you need to know in order to move forward a little bit faster. Because let me take an actual example and let me move forward with that. For example, do you need to know about neurons and layers? Let's talk about like a neural network here. I'm going to just draw a very simple one here just to show you. And here, this is a neural network. So that is a neuron. And this is a layer. So this is the basic vocabulary you need to know. You need to know what we're talking about when we talk about a neuron, but like there is not that much more you need in terms of like what the math behind them is about, right? Like sometimes people are going to talk about like, a times x plus b, and like this is like how a neuron interface with the layers, and like then there is going to be a function of that. So that's the function kind of. And then it's going to give you like the equation to go like from one layer to the next, right? And like that's kind of like the idea, and that's and then it gets more complicated, and then there is like the activation function, the sigmoid, like the all of those things. These things you don't necessarily need to know because these are like this is the math behind the neural networks. Now, don't get me wrong, of course, like that could be useful to know about it down the line in order to solve like problems that if you have problems with the algorithms and the way they work, and like it actually doesn't work, and like you need to kind of like troubleshoot what you have, maybe you're gonna go back to like, okay, and it has to be a very complicated problem, by the way, like you're never gonna have to like dive into the math behind the neural networks if it's just a very simple neural networks, a very simple neural net. This is only going to be if you are doing a complicated problem, and it's not going to be for your first neural network, is what I'm saying. When you're going to create your first neural network, it's going to be very simple, and all of that is not going to be, you're not going to see it at all. It's not that it's not going to be useful. That of course it's not, but it's also not going to. You're never going to actually see those types of formula. The order is actually important, and we need to first like learn about the things that are going to move us forward in order to get results. To get results instead of like just learning everything, and then from all that knowledge just use a tiny bit in order to create a first neural network. That's not really like how most people work. That's not how I work, and that's not natural, quite frankly, because usually we work for a specific result. We don't learn tons and tons of things and then learn a few little things, and then actually apply a few little things here and there in order to like actually get our results. That's not how that works. Let me clear that up, and I'm going to create another neural network. This is going to be a very simple one as well. But instead of having like one neuron at the first layer, I'm gonna have two, and here I'm gonna have one output neuron. Okay, so that actually matters, and this is something that you might actually need to know. That number here, this is the number of features that the neural network needs, right? And so this is 2 here. So we need to, because there are 2 features, what does that mean? And it's going to be, this is based on the problem that you have and that you want the neural network to solve, right? So for example, in this case, the number of features, if you want your neural network to just give you your health, like let's say to grade you from like 1 to 5, this is going to be a health grade based on like your height and your weight. Then this is going to be there is going to be 2 features. Why? Because it's going to be like two inputs, so the weight and your height, and based on that, the neural network is going to learn and is going to like give you the output basically. So this is the number of features, and that is, you need to know that this is how to do it, right? Because otherwise you're never going to know like the number of neurons here that you need in order to do that, right? It's actually very simple. It's just the number of inputs that you have in your problem. And if you had like another one, like let's say for example sleep, like the number of hours you sleep per day, and you want to add that to the number of inputs, then all you need to do is add a neuron here, and then you have like 3 inputs, 3 features in order to like train your neural network and have a neural network that works. And that's pretty much it. Now, same thing for the output. Here, if you had like 2 neurons, well, that would have been basically like having 2 different outputs, like not just your health grade, but also like, let's say, how long you're going to live. That could be one of the things, that's just an example, right? But this is the number of features that you're going to have to design inside your neural network. So that actually matters, because if you're not structuring the number of neurons in the output layer or in the input layer, you're going to get an error when you're running your code in Python, for example, using PyTorch or whatever, or TensorFlow, whatever you're using. So this is actually this is linked to an actual problem. This is not just like something that you need to know, but you're never going to have to use in the real world. Like, this is definitely something you're going to have to design with your first neural network that you are doing. So if you don't know, if you are just getting started, like, make sure you learn the things that actually matter. And basically, like, you can just get started and then reverse engineer what you know and look to like those types of things, instead of like getting a course on just like neural networks that are going to talk about all those things that don't actually matter, but are very theoretical. And because people like to pretend that you need to know all those things, like also like the derivatives of the function. Like, let's make just a side note here. Like, if we talk about the derivatives of those function, basically it's the function that I was talking about before. Like, some people are talking about like the derivative of a function in order to basically train their neural network. And that is actually what is happening under the hood when you're training a neural network. Basically, there is what's called the backward propagation. And again, that word, like, you don't need to know what the backward propagation is. It's just part of the training. So the derivatives and the backward propagation and the gradient descent, all of that is just training, right? If you need to know what it is, all you need to know is that this is part of the training, but you don't actually need to know what those are or how you like compute the derivative of a function. All you need to know is that's part of the training. So if you see those terms, you don't necessarily need to be like, to freak out about like, oh, that's not something that I actually know, or that's I need to learn about that. No, you need to know that it is part of the training, and if you know that, then that's good enough, and then you can move forward. Now, that's just an example, of course, but this is basically all I wanted to talk about here. So I hope that video was helpful, and if you want to be part of my contact, I'm gonna give you like exclusive content about neural networks and about a lot of other things. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.